All right, everyone, how's it going? Excuse my frog and my voice. I just wanted to do a little bit of a introduction to this episode before it starts. I didn't say it during the interview with John, but I do have a frog in my throat again. I feel like it was just a few podcasts ago I had a cold, but I've got another one, and my voice is just not up to par. But we fought through it. We went to the distance with John, and I appreciate his time and talking to me and sharing his story. And I want to say, guys, this is an amazing story that John provides, so please listen, give it a listen. And we do plug his site on the show, but I just want to stress how amazing his project is, the work that he's doing with Sylvester Stallone, the two of them working together, and the offer that he gives the listeners here a chance to win a piece of this artwork is pretty amazing. So, and you can also buy some of the artwork with a promo code, which will be all talked about in the episode. So if you want to hear about the goodies you can get as a listener of the show and as a fan of Rocky in general, and if any of your friends or family that are fans, and so you don't even have to be a fan of my show per se, to be a part of this contest. So that will be explained in the interview and how you can enter to win a piece of artwork. Secondly, just a little bit of housekeeping here. I'm going to be gone for 5 weeks. I need to do some training in the military. I've got a big change coming up. I'm moving to the province of Quebec from here, which is British Columbia in Canada, if you want to look on a map and Google this stuff. So I'll be moving from British Columbia to Quebec, but before I move, I have to go on a house hunting trip, as they call it. I got to look for a house to buy with the wife. For 4 weeks after that, I have to get trained on how to be an instructor, and I'm going to be teaching boot camp, essentially, to a bunch of new recruits, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So because of that, there won't be any new episodes coming out for a little bit, maybe a month or so. So I can't stress enough that you need to subscribe to whatever feed you're listening to. Subscribe to it. That way, when we do get new episodes out, and when they do come, because they're going to come, you get the alert that, hey, they're out there. And please, I'm begging you, I never ask for money. But share this podcast with your friends and family at the very least, or give us a review on iTunes. I know people say, oh, why do I have to do that? Because it actually helps promote our show and tells other people that might be Sylvester Stallone fans or Rocky fans that we exist as a podcast, because there's millions and millions of fans out there that are Stallone fans, and we want them to know about the podcast, and also supports all the wonderful guests and interviews that we've had on the show, and gets their word of their product out there as well. So everyone's part of the Sly world and the Rocky world get to enjoy each other's company, so to speak. Because I am moving, that means Ruben and I won't be able to record together anymore. We'll be able to do episodes together, but we won't be in the same room together anymore. So that will be coming up too, that we'll be doing cross-country recordings, which will make seeing the video together a little bit trickier, like we've been doing for season 5. So hope you've enjoyed those live broadcasts as they've happened. They just won't be happening as much because we won't be in the same room together anymore. So it kind of breaks my heart a little bit, but just keep that in mind. And lastly, don't forget to listen to our other podcast called The Worst of the Best Podcast. You can find that podcast on every podcast app, and you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. It is called The Worst of the Best Podcast. Okay, so there's all the housekeeping. I had your attention at the beginning. This is a wonderful interview. Thank you, John, for taking the time to talking to me. Just an old ham and egger over here. And here we go. Without further ado, John. Welcome, everyone, to an episode of Going the Distance, the Rocky Series podcast. I am your host, Ryan, and with me we have a very special guest, John Rivoli. He actually reached out to me some time ago. We finally have been able to make this work, to talk together and meet in person, because we're talking on Skype right now, face-to-face. I know our listeners can't see that, but just believe us, we're both staring at each other's handsome faces as we do so. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Great to be here. Thank you.
So, John, we're going to get right into it. Why did you reach out to me? What do you have that you want people to know that you've got going on in your life here?
Being on Rocky Going the Distance made total sense as far as I was concerned, because I had been working towards this moment of this culmination of all these events that came to be for right now, which is, the launch of Icons in Art, which is our online gallery shop that features paintings of Rocky and Creed. So it just made total sense that I wanted to chat with you and let you know what I was doing over here.
Perfect. So we'll say you are an artist. When I say artist, because not a singing artist, or can you sing?
I actually went to music school first, so it's funny you say that. I was a vocal major. Yeah.
Well, I stand corrected. Okay, you're one of those people. Okay, well, I have no skills whatsoever. I can't sing. I'm like Rocky. I can't sing or dance, but I also can't fight.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Okay, so let's talk about your childhood then. Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised on the Jersey Shore.
Oh.
Actually, grew up on the beach, where it was a beach town. A sleepy beach town, and we were one of the only families that lived there year-round. Oh. It was mostly a summer destination for people for their summer homes, but I was the guy who lived there year-round, so I was alone a lot.
Oh, geez.
And yeah, but no, that's okay, because it got either hone your skills or you get in trouble, right? So I worked on honing my skills of drawing and being a draftsman and working on art. That was the real benefit of having all that forced time on me.
Okay, well, that's interesting. That's a good way of looking at it. So I saw that you were born in '68. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, I'm only guessing. I should say I saw that. I'm guessing because of I won't say your screen name for Skype if you don't want me to share that. But I saw that the last two numbers were 68. Now I do the same thing. Sometimes I'll put 75 at the end of my passwords or something. Yeah, because I was born in '75. Okay, let's do some quick math here. You were 8 years old when Rocky 1 came out.
That's right.
What's your first memory?
Well, it was the one and only movie I ever saw with my brother. We just didn't go to movies and stuff together, but this one we did. He had seen it first and insisted I go see it. Like many people, I'm sure, my age, something in my DNA just kind of changed when I saw that film. And it's funny because I wound up seeing that movie in the movies that year 13 times. I went. Whoa. I kept going back to see it. Yeah. Luckily, in those days, it was a couple dollars to go to the movies. But
sure.
But I went repeatedly to see that movie. Something just got into me, and I was hooked on it from that point forward. And it had incredibly lasting effect, as I think Rocky does on so many people, that character. And it really helped to shape and form me and the way that I live my life and the way I conduct myself and the way that I hope that I never give up on things. I just keep going and going because I'm always striving for that shot. Just give me that one moment at the plate. Let me take a swing. That was the effect that I remember so vividly happening.
That is awesome. So you were 8 when that came out, and then you would have been 11 when part 2 came out. So how excited were you when you heard and saw the sequel?
Oh my God, I was going crazy. And another funny thing, that was the only movie I saw with my dad.
Oh, okay.
Which I find interesting because, and I told Sly these stories. There's this connection in the family with Rocky. Yeah, so Rocky 2 was the only movie I saw with my dad.
Okay.
And it's just, again, we just weren't the kind of family that went out to the movies. But we did go see Rocky when it came out. Rocky was just really big in my house.
Awesome.
Same thing. It had a phenomenal effect on me once again, and it just continued and built on that story.
Now, you've seen every one of them in the theaters since then, or? So you're one of the few that I've talked to, I think, that's done that.
Yeah, well, I was there for opening night for 2, 3, 4, 5, Balboa, and the Creeds. I was there. After the first one, I was there opening night for all of them.
Wow, look at you. That's awesome. You're probably the first person I've talked to that's maybe Kunda. Maybe Mike Kunda has done this. But as far as there every night, I don't know if he saw the original in the theaters during its original run. I don't know. Because I think I recall a story where he was saying that he saw it on VHS or something, or we had it recorded from the TV.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's Mike? Oh, wow.
I don't know what his age is, but he's in between me and you, I think, so he might have been maybe too young for the first one. 8's probably almost, not the minimum, but especially in today's movies, like an 8-year-old might have a hard time getting through it.
Absolutely.
I think movies were different when you and I were younger, that we could sit in a movie that wasn't like full-on CGI and candy for our eyes, right? Movies itself, it was just a novelty to go to the movies.
It was storytelling, right? Which is the key to everything. It's the old campfire sitting around and telling stories. I mean, Rocky is a quiet movie. You
Yeah.
mentioned the CGI. Think about how different it is when you watch it and you keep that in mind. It's a very quiet movie. And a lot of the movies back then were a little bit more quiet. So as an 8-year-old, you could sit there and grasp it and get the story.
Right. Do you recall the first time you started thinking, oh, I'm going to draw Rocky?
Well, I started drawing him immediately when I
Oh,
was 8 years old. I have old notebooks in my parents' house with all my drawings of Rocky.
I would love to
And I
see
had all
those.
yeah, I'm going to dig them out. They're at my parents' house. I had all the posters, so I was immediately hooked. Whatever was out there, I went and got. But I was always drawing anyway. And one of the things I would do is I would watch a show, whether it be Abbott and Costello or the Godzilla movies, and I would watch them and then recreate them in panel form, like a comic.
Oh, wow.
So I would redo them. Yeah, so that's how I kind of had these stories that I could rewatch in my own way by looking at my drawings and the captions and stuff. So that's what I used to do with my time. And I have some of those still also.
I would love to see that. I've never heard of
Yeah.
anyone doing that before. That is
Yeah,
impressive.
that's what I used to do. Oh, thanks.
No, you kind of hinted at this, and this is, I would say, the story that I want to hear the most, and the build up and how it happened and what it was like. But you mentioned that, I told Sly this story. That's what I like. How you just gloss over. Oh, gee, okay, well, I've never told Sly anything. But so let's get to this. Now, you were talking about your journey here of watching all these Rocky films. Obviously, Sylvester Stallone. I'm sure you saw probably all of his films, and you're probably a huge fan.
Yes, I am.
So how did it happen that you one day met him, and what was the build up to that, and what's it been like since, and what's going on here? How are you having conversations with Sly?
Yeah, well, so to back up a little bit, between 8 years old and now, after college, I started a design agency with my wife. And we service all the movie studios. Pretty much any film that's come out in the last 20 years, I probably had something to do with as far as artwork for it. So that starting back in 2001, whether it's the first Harry Potter film all the way through the entire series, or most recently Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad, Batman versus Superman, RoboCop, all that stuff. There's a whole consumer products division of these companies where they make money on the films after they're out of the theaters or, during. So when you see T-shirts or backpacks or all that stuff that has art on it, we're the guys who make that art. Only one person does it. Even though they have licensees all around the world who make the stuff, they all work from one book. So we make that book. It's called a style guide. So we'll get the script before the film is going. We'll get the script. We'll read it. We'll get a feel for what is this thing going to look like? What's it going to smell like? What's the taste? You know what I mean? All those things. Because we have to come up with the color palette. We have to come up with the fonts. We have to make the packaging, everything. So we've been doing that for 2 decades. We've been doing that for all these films.
That's fascinating. I love hearing that kind of stuff because this stuff is getting done, and no one ever thinks to themselves, "Who's doing this?" And that's what you're doing. Yeah, you're the guy.
Right. It's right. It's not like the T-shirt person in Italy and the guy in Asia are all making their own art. That's not how it works.
Right.
They're given that. It's called it's a Bible. It's the style guide, which is the Bible for the film, and that's what we do. Yeah. So during all of this, I'm reaching out to MGM saying, hey, I'm a huge Rocky guy. So if you decide to do something like this, give me a call. So I waited, and you're always kind of cold calling trying to do this stuff.
Sure.
And I don't know how serious people take you when you say this, but I was like, no, really, I know Rocky. If you do something, you got to call me. So eventually they did. It was in 2012, right around the 35th, right around 35, 30, one of those anniversaries. And they asked me to do a collection of art for a style guide supplement that they were going to do. So I did all these designs and paintings and things. At the end, I finally convinced MGM, this guy does know what he's talking about. Like, he's the guy with Rocky. So they surprised me by setting up a meeting so that I could present all the art to Sly.
Okay. All right. So let's slow down. Because is this the video that I saw?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
No. This is purely just for MGM. So I remember they called me on a Tuesday. I'm in New York. They're in LA, obviously.
Okay.
They called me on Tuesday at about 5:30, 6 o'clock. You got to be here tomorrow at 10.
Oh, wow.
Sly said tomorrow's the day. Now I'm going crazy trying to find a way to get out to LA last minute, and I did. Yeah, I
Well,
did.
for
I finally
Sly,
got to
yeah, for Sly, you'd bend time.
yeah, you got to do what you got to, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'll get there somehow. So I remember going through all that, and I didn't sleep that night. I was like so ready and pumped. I was just like, I was waiting by the door, just when can I go, you know? I remember going and flying out, and I was just waiting. MGM picked me up at the airport, and
Wow.
then we went over to his office in Beverly Hills.
So you went to
And
Sly's office, his own office.
yeah, yeah, he used to have it. I don't think he has it anymore. He used to have an office there.
If you're allowed to say, tell me something that you noticed in the office that kind of struck you, like, oh, he's got that in his office.
Yeah, well, as soon as you walk in, he's got a life-size Rocky, a Rocky 4 in the flag shorts. You know, as soon as you walk in.
That's awesome.
And I remember going in and checking in, and then being taken to this conference room where we all kind of waited, and it was quiet. The thing I remember most is that I heard him because he's got that voice.
Yeah, of course.
And when you're in person, it resonates even more than what you think. Like you hear it in these films, but when he's in a room, I mean, he's a baritone, you know? So I remember sitting there and I heard him, and I remember thinking to myself, Sly is in the building. Like he's here, you know? I'm about to see him. And I remember he just turned the corner and came in. I was like, oh my God, here it is, you know? And it was great because, you know, MGM introduced me as like this aficionado for Rocky that they went and found, and they flew me in to do this. And it was like the best way to meet him or the best way to meet anybody who's your idol, because it wasn't, oh my God, I love you, and I've seen all your movies, and you know, one of those by chance meetings. This was like he's looking at my art saying, well, how do you do this?
Right.
Or how did you get that texture? And I'm thinking, like, Sly's asking me questions.
Yeah, because
like,
he dabbles. Because he dabbles in art.
Oh, he's an amazing painter, because he had his some of them there. And I've been looking at them since. He is an incredible painter.
Okay, may I ask, how do you know one is it, because this is your field of work? It's not mine. I could look at a painting, because he's asking you like textures and stuff. So basically, you have two artist nerds, no offense, talking back and forth about their artwork, and he's asking you, how do you do this? How can you look at his work and be objective and say it is good? Like what? How do you see that as an artist?
There's a couple of things about his art that struck me immediately, and I still see it. It's consistent. The energy in his brushstrokes is incredible. As you would probably imagine, I mean, Sly he's a man's man. He's testosterone, right? He paints like that. So there's incredible energy in his strokes and where he uses knives to paint with.
Knives?
I mean palette knives.
Okay,
like palette knives.
I was thinking he's painting with a Rambo knife or something.
Though he could. I mean, he does use. We all use weird stuff from time to time. But also, his use of color is just bar none. He has a fantastic eye for color, colors that sit together. Because he paints more abstract than I do.
Yeah.
So everything has to fire for that to work. It has to fire just right. You have to have the right composition. You have to have the brush strokes. But his use of color, I always tell him, I love the color palette. It's fantastic. Very much like Leroy Neiman, right? When you see Leroy Neiman, and you know those bright colors, and you're like, wow, he's so different. Like, you know a Neiman as soon as you see it, right? You just know it. I admire Sly's work incredibly for those points.
Must have blown you away. It must have blown you away having him asking you questions about your artwork and how you do things.
It absolutely blew me away. And I remember calling my wife saying, I mean, Sly was asking me questions. It was the coolest thing. I didn't have to be like, you know, where they just stand there looking at you and like, oh, I really like you, and I'm 8 years old. I didn't have to do that. We got to speak on a professional level, which is the best case scenario.
You can be non-professional, geek out with me.
Right, exactly, because that's how it was. But and I remember hanging around with him after and talking, and I told him the story about how I only saw the only movie I ever saw with my brother was Rocky. Right. Only with my dad. Like, I told him that whole story. And he was really touched by it. You could see he was really touched by that story.
Awesome.
Because I was just trying to explain how important it is in my family, right? And I know it's other people's too. It's just something about that character that he created that it resonates, you know, with so many people.
During that meeting, you're talking a little bit of artwork, but he's looking at your pictures. What is it that's decided upon or not decided upon during that meeting, your first meeting with him?
Well, he has to approve them all and say, yeah, everything you did is great, and I approve it, so you can now send it out so people can make T-shirts and stuff. So a lot of those shirts you see on eBay and things, that's just my art. That was from that particular project that I had done. So he had to look through each one of them and approve them.
Was there anything that he didn't approve of that struck you as odd that he wouldn't approve of? Or
Nope, nothing.
Well, he approved everything?
Proved everything. And there was a lot. There was a lot of pieces in that collection, well over 20 pieces that I had done for that collection. So the odds were against me. That's something, you know?
Wow.
And I did them all in very different styles, too, because I wanted to just offer a lot. And I did a lot in Italian because, well, obviously, and
Right.
he's very much in touch with his Italian roots as I am. And, you know, my wife is fluent. My kids are fluent. So I can add in all that Italian stuff as well, which is great.
Good for you. Was there a piece that he particularly liked? Maybe a bubble or one that he's like, oh, yeah, I really like this one.
Yeah, I asked him. I actually asked him which was his favorite one. It was a Rocky III image that I had done. I'll send it to you after so you could see it. But that was the one he liked the most.
And did he speak to you like he did in Rocky V to his son? Yo, you did this?
Well, he did that in that video, right? Did you watch that video?
I did watch. Yeah, I did.
You did this freehand? It's like, yeah.
That's awesome. No, I just keep thinking about him looking at his son's artwork and, you all remember this when we were fishing, right?
Yeah, right. You don't show your mother. She don't know this stuff too good.
Yeah, she doesn't like French too much. Yeah, you didn't draw him any Madame Dupont photos, I don't think, or any pictures like that.
No, they nailed that one. I didn't have to go there.
Yeah, you don't have to improve on that perfection. You should have asked him who drew Madame Dupont. That's the question I would have asked him.
I should have. One of the images I did was him walking away with Adrian at the end of Rocky I. It was an image that you've seen here and there, but I had used it, and it's not in the movie.
But apparently it was filmed, and that's why we see the stills, but they didn't use that as the ending, but then that film got lost in a fire or something like that. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, that was the story I was going to say, is that he said that was the original ending, and they did film it, but that it was destroyed. And
it breaks my heart.
Even if it wasn't, it breaks his heart too, but he said in those days they didn't hang on to stuff. They got rid of it, you know?
Right.
They just dumped it. So that was the first meeting with Sly. That's how I met him for the first time.
For those who are listening right now who don't know the art, how would you describe your artwork?
What I like to say is, look, to me, Rocky is an art film. It makes total sense to retell it in artwork. Most recent conversation I had with Sly was about that. That was my mission right now, is I wanted to retell Rocky in art. I tried to find the important moments. I'm not getting just the usual cast of suspects of him running up the step, whatever, all the things we know. But I'm trying to find those moments where there's a shift in the character in the story or something that's very important. And that's what I tried to capture.
Good, yeah. Oh, I like that. What do you use for your materials? There might be some aspiring or other artists that are listening to the show. Maybe you could tell them what materials do you use?
Sure. I start with graphite. Everything I do, I draw first. I just draw it out. I draft it over and over and over until I get it where it's just right. And then I have that tight pencil that I can start from. And then I use all different kinds of paints, from acrylic to watercolor to gouache and oil. I use all those in a mixture, just depending on what I want to achieve in what area of it.
Okay. So after this first meeting with Sly, this was, of course, not the last meeting. This was just the first. What was next for John's life with your dealings with Sly? What was the next thing that happened?
Well, I knew that the 40th was coming up shortly after that. So I approached MGM and asked them, can I put together a program for the 40th anniversary? It's really important. So, and of course, they were totally on board with doing that. I knew my next thing was I had to compile something that captured the spirit and the flavor of that first film, right? So I wanted to go out and capture the grittiness of Philadelphia in the mid-'70s and the ugliness and the dirtiness of all that stuff. So that's what I was after. So I got to go through MGM's archives, which was amazing because they have all these slides. They have slides from those days. So I got to look through all the slides and pick out all this on-set kind of photography that they were doing. They didn't do it organized like they do today. It was like if you got a few shots, that was a big deal. So I got to go through all that and choose what I wanted to work from. Did that, made my trip out, got all that reference, and then went back to New York and just started creating, just started painting. And this is where I landed on the look and style that you see now, your listeners will see now when I go to the site.
Okay.
This is where I hit that.
Okay.
Because I studied oil painting in Florence, Italy. That's where I learned how to paint. I was always studying the masters, and I was trying to achieve what they did. The really realistic, beautiful paintings, which I've done a lot in my career. You're always evolving. and I wanted to do something else. After a certain point, you're like, if you could paint it that real, then what's the point? Just show me the photo. What's the point, right? You got to bring something to it that reality can't have. So that's where I was really exploring what I was going to do here. And I hit on this style that it's as unfinished as it is painted. Mike Kunda had said to me recently, the thing he loves most is that unfinished, because he always sees Rocky as an unfinished character who's constantly kind of evolving and growing. So he loves that I've kind of left it open a little for some growth in there. So that's what I try to do. And there's a lot going on in there, Ryan. I do a lot of layering and things because I want you to stop and just look at this thing for a bit. Just look at it and see what you find in there, because there's a lot of things going on. So that's where I hit on this style that Sly liked so much.
So what became of the work that you did for this 40th?
So we made it into a style guide. So it's a 40th anniversary style guide, which was sent out to everybody. That's why, Topps they did some prints of my work, and there was cards, and, there's T-shirt, all that stuff happened, the usual stuff that I was explaining earlier. Sly got to approve everything.
Right.
And see it all. So that was the second time we had interacted.
Nice.
And then after that was when he asked me to do a special painting. And that was the one from the video.
Okay. So I'll put that link on our site as well, because that's an incredible, but I'll let you set it up and talk all about it. I want those who may not check out the link to hear the story of what happened and the setup and everything and the reason behind it.
Yeah, it's a great story, that one. So we had met in Beverly Hills, and he had asked me if I would do this painting, the one that you see in this video and that we have for sale now on our site. And we talked about it, and he's like, he was directing me on how he wanted it, because he's such a great storyteller. He's a great storyteller. I tell him all the time. So when he starts talking, it's great. It's like, oh my God, there's so many ideas now of what I want to paint, because just keep talking, Sly. Just don't stop. So he's talking, and we're going back and forth, and he's talking about how he wants Rocky there and larger than life, Philadelphia behind, but he's big and large and all this stuff. And would you do this painting? And I said, sure, I'll do it. But one thing, I said, you got to let me paint Rocky in the leather jacket, because he originally wanted, in the sweats and all. And I said, Rocky is the guy in the leather jacket, bouncing the ball on the docks. That's Rocky. That's the guy we all relate to. We're all that guy looking for the one shot to prove we're not a bum, right? That's Rocky. He agreed, and I went back to New York and worked for, I think, 2 months, roughly, on it. And then it's a big one, it's like a 6-footer, and then shipped it out and met it there. I met him on June 25th of 2016. I know that because it's my wedding anniversary, so I had to leave to go meet Sly.
I'm sure your wife forgave you for that.
She was fine with that. If you got an excuse, if you have to have an excuse, like going to meet Sly, it's like, I think that one will get you off the hook.
Yeah.
So that video is very long. I just put a snippet up there, but the beauty of that day was that the paparazzi was there. And they're always kind of trying to find him, but they usually just take photography. But this time it was that Hollywood, whoever it was there, and they were filming. So it was great, because I got to capture the whole moment on film. So it made for...
How were the paparazzi around you? Like, I mean, I've never had anyone like that follow me. Did they keep their distance? Did they ruin the moment that you had with Sly, or was it still okay and intimate?
This particular one was great. He was it's almost as if we hired him to be there. Like, just stand there and document this.
Okay.
And that's all he did. He didn't try to interfere. He didn't do anything. He was just so happy that he was being allowed to film.
So he kept his mouth shut like a good person.
Kept his mouth shut. You could see in that video, Sly even gives him my iPhone. He's like, take some pictures.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we were having a really good interaction with this particular paparazzi. So it worked out really, really well. There's this whole interaction, and it's great because I unveil it to him. And you saw his reaction. He's like, oh my God. And he's like digging into this thing. Yeah. He's like, just wants to rip it open to get at it.
Yeah.
And I still remember that day, because that one of the happiest I've ever seen Sly. He was so happy because art really excites him. Art excites him. He's very much involved in the art world. He goes to all the shows and exhibits. So he was just digging into this thing to see what it was. And it was just a fabulous moment for me yet again.
That's just insane. That's insane to me, brother, because he has excited you with his work, and then you got to do that to him. I mean, What
Isn't that
do you
amazing?
do? What do you do with yourself after you've excited your own idol with your work to him, saying you have inspired me to do this, and here you go, and he's like, man, thank you. What do you do with
I
yourself?
know. What do you do? There's nothing left. We're done. I'm done. That's it. I've accomplished everything. That's success. I remember calling my dad going, that is success, what I just did there. And
Oh, well,
it
I'm
was
so happy
amazing
for
because
you.
at the end of that video, he carries the painting over to the restaurant, Cafe Roma, and he hangs it right there. And that's when he asked me to do 2 more. So that's why I had gone back to New York and I did 2 more paintings, which also got hung there. So that's how it kind of just kept evolving,
What are the other 2
with the
paintings
art.
of?
One of him in his robe from Rocky 1.
Right.
It's a portrait of him. And then there's another portraiture of him in the leather, which will be up on our site. I'm waiting for final approvals from MGM and stuff, because right now we have our first 5 of our debut collection, and we have another 5 coming. We're just waiting for final approvals.
Okay.
So you'll see those soon. So yeah, that's what the other 2 are, portraitures.
So the
That's
originals are hanging up in Cafe Roma, is that what you said?
Yeah, they were. They just recently came down. Cafe Roma got gutted and renovated,
Oh,
so
okay.
they redid the place. There for about 3 years.
Oh, okay. So where are they now?
Well, Sly took the big one that you see from that video. He has that one in his home. The other 2 I have at a friend's house in LA, actually.
Oh, you must trust that friend.
Yeah, I do, because I plan on doing something out there, gallery-wise, so I want to leave them. I don't want to ship them all the way back, so I'm keeping them out there.
Now, can you speak to the, you're talking about MGM's approval and all this stuff. Can you speak to where, like, what is you're dealing with them now officially and all that good stuff?
Back in September, this past September 18, I got this bright idea that instead of just doing these style guides, doing all this art, and giving it out to everybody else to make product and stuff, why don't I go straight to the consumer with my art?
Sure.
So MGM doesn't have a fine art licensee on board. They have the T-shirts, all the usual suspects. They got the boxer shorts with the contender. They all have all that stuff, but they didn't have fine art. Given my relationship with them, it was a no-brainer. They were absolutely on board to do it. So we started the negotiations and everything and finalized it right around when I first contacted you, because I knew that it was going through and I wanted to get in touch with you.
Well, I'm honored. I don't know. Like when you did, I was like, does this guy know who I am? I'm nobody. Why is he like
Nah.
No, I mean, I
We're
appreciate
all
that.
somebody.
Wow. I'm just a ham and egger. Just a ham and egger doing this little silly podcast. So
Yeah. Got the license to be the only officially licensed fine artist for Rocky and Creed. I also can do Creed.
nice.
So I'll be doing Creed pieces as well, Michael B. Jordan.
That's awesome.
Which will be working into the collection, which I'll put up on Icons and Art.
So what is it that
website.
people can buy? Like, how is it they buy it? And I mean, I'm sure you don't sell the originals per se, but you sell prints and what have you. And what kind of format
so
are they
what-
sold in? And are you allowed to say the price range?
We had to capture the best printing process we could to recreate what I did with that art, because there's a lot, like I said earlier, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of color building going on. So it's not like you could just make a screen print of it. It's
Right.
just not going to work. So I started the process of interviewing printers all around the country until I could find who I thought was the best. And I found these guys. They're phenomenal. They're in Pennsylvania, funny enough. And their process really captures what I do so well. When you see the art in person, has such an impact. It's so much better than seeing it online, right? When you see it, you're like, oh my God, the color's incredible. We do a giclée printing. Giclée is the highest level printing you could do. It's what all the museums do for their shops when you leave a museum. So a giclée is a 12-color printing process, which is the best there is. And we have this incredible Moab Entrada paper, really thick. It's like you almost can't even roll it. It's so heavy and thick. So you're really getting something substantial when you get the print. And we're doing them in 2 sizes. We're doing a small 11 by 14 size that we thought people might want to buy a whole bunch and put them in their man cave or whatever. They could do a whole series of. And those are going to be selling for $55 free domestic shipping.
Nice.
So it's all in. And then we have a limited edition large one, an 18 by 24. These are all going to be hand signed by me, and they're limited to 1976 of each painting. We'll only be limited to that number.
Oh, 1976. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
so
it.
that's what we're going to do there. Yeah, and those are 200
Okay.
for the large ones
Yeah.
that are limited and signed and numbered
Nice.
by me. Those are the two options that you have for each painting for right now. The great thing is that I collaborate with Sly on all the paintings. I'll start it and I'll send it to him, and he'll look at it and he'll give me comment, and we'll go back and forth. So that's the best part of it,
Mm-hmm.
is that I have his input on it.
Wow.
I'm telling you, this guy is absolutely brilliant. It's not just with the writing. The guy with painting is absolutely brilliant. He's brilliant. His comments are dead on every single time. The best one and the best piece, which we haven't released yet, and we're holding it because I'm hoping to do something special with Sly on this. But he had contacted me back in Christmas time and sent me this really rare photo. It was like a Polaroid from Rocky 1. To him, it was like the most important moment, and he wanted me to kind of capture this.
I guess you can't say what it is.
Yeah, I'm going to hold back a little bit, but I have it. He has the original because he was, I brought it to him back in February, and he loved it. So I knew we hit this one. And I told him then, I'm like, this is the process, Sly. Like, if you could tell me the story behind it, give me the content, and then I'll do the art. And I think that's the beauty of art. It's not just about the picture, Ryan, but when you go to a museum, you see the little placard next to it and you read the story behind it. It's those two things.
Sure.
So if he could supply the story to me and I do the art, I think it's a home run because, as I said earlier, I really want the art to tell a story. I want it to tell a story. I want you to look at it and know what's going on.
That's awesome. I want to make that clear to our listeners. I'm sure they understand, but just how this isn't just a fan making pictures of Rocky. You're doing this with Sylvester Stallone, his input, his approval with MGM Studios. This is big stuff. I mean, this is, as far as artwork goes for the Rocky franchise, I don't know if anything can beat this.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, because you see like fan art and stuff floating around, that's not what this is. Like, this is like you had just said, this is the real deal. This is the official one. Where everybody, all the right players are involved. And for the fans, if you want to buy art that Sly is thumbs up on, that's what this is.
That's awesome. You got my approval.
Thanks.
Before we close, I had a couple of questions for you about an IMDb search I did on you. I see here that you've written 2 short films. Is that true?
Yep.
Okay, one of them is titled Isabella. That was in 2017. You were a co-writer on that. And then one called Firefly. What's the story behind these stories?
It's funny because I was also writing recently, and I work very closely with the team behind Birdman, which won the Academy Award back in 2014, and The Revenant. So I work with those guys, team of writers. They're here in New York. So we collaborate. I do a lot of art for them, all their posters and things, and I also write with them quite a bit. So when there's smaller projects, those guys can't handle the big stuff, so they throw it to me to do. So again, with the story, it's just another way of storytelling, right?
Sure.
It goes back to the campfire. Everybody wants a good story. So whether it's through art or writing, that's what I'm trying to do.
Now, do these films get made? Or are they released? Can you get them somewhere? Like, how do you get... I always wonder, how do you get short films? The ones that are like 12 minutes long? And how do you see these and where do you get them?
They were made and they are hard. Like, I have Isabella, because the director was nice enough to share it with me. And I'll be happy to share that with you as well.
Please.
They're hard to get. Like, I still haven't seen Firefly. I know it was made. But I didn't get a chance to see what happened with it. But
because I'll do that when the Academy Award comes out with the best short feature film or whatever. And I'm like, I would like to see some of these, but I don't even know how I can unless I'm a member of the Academy. How do I see these short films? They seem to be hard to find.
That's exactly it. Nobody knows where to see them. I would imagine they're in like little art house kind of theaters in big cities, but I don't know.
Yeah, for what it's worth, sure. Send me Isabella, and do I have your permission to share with other listeners who ask for it from me?
Sure, of course.
Okay, there you go.
Absolutely.
Because I bet you, I guarantee I got some listeners who will say, hey, send me a copy. I guarantee it.
Yeah, no. Absolutely. Yeah, because it's a YouTube link, so I'll send it to you. But I want to offer to your listeners too, we just launched. We launched this week. So we're brand new with the site with Rocky. So it's iconsandart.com. I want to offer a discount to your listeners if anybody wants to go over there. We programmed a code for them. So it's GTD, going the distance, GTD 10. If they do that, we'll give them 10% off.
Oh, that's awesome. I when you told me that you were doing that, I was absolutely thrilled. I've made it clear with my listeners throughout the years that I'll never ask for money. I'll never do a Patreon. It's always free. I don't do any ads or anything. I always promote whoever's on the show. I promote their stuff, but I never will insert ads into the show for other unrelated whatever type stuff. I just always want to make this show free and available because I'm just a ham and egger. I can't expect people to I don't have that big of an audience where I can even expect anything. But when you said that you're doing that, it thrilled me because I've heard another podcast that I listen to, like, punch in the promo code and the fact that you're willing to do that for our listeners. And I don't want you to get your hopes up. We don't have thousands and thousands of listeners, but even if one person uses the code, that'd be amazing.
No, I think it's great. Listen, we're all part of this like kind of Rocky community, so we all kind of keep it within for ourselves. And I want to get this art out to the fans because I'm a fan. This is stuff that I buy. This is what I would buy. So I just want to make sure that everybody has a shot at getting it.
That's awesome.
And I see you have a nice open wall behind you there, so yeah, I'm going to send you one. I'm going to send you one to fill that spot up there.
Yeah, you're too kind. You are absolutely too kind. Boy, oh boy. I'm totally honored and thrilled that you would do that. I would never ask for such a favor, so thank you so much. What are your favorite films in the Rocky franchise?
To me, it's all about Rocky 1 and Rocky Balboa. I love those two. They're bookends. I think you can go from one right into Rocky Balboa and tell the complete story right from there. You can go from that scene of him with Adrian in the ring right to him looking at the gravestone.
I think Sly says something to that, and I've mentioned it on my show before, but I think Sly did say somewhere where that was his intent with Balboa, that you could almost, it's like a 30-year later sequel.
Absolutely. When I met him the first time, if I recall correctly, I think I remember him saying that Balboa was like his favorite. He loved Rocky Balboa. He loved that one.
That's awesome.
And I love it too. I think it's a great one. So I love those two right there. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else you could do with the Rocky character. But Sly always surprises us, so we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Who knows what he's got coming next?
Well, you got Rambo 5. Are you a Rambo fan?
I am. Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of Rambo paintings.
I was going to ask. I was actually going to ask because I think a lot of our people. Now, would those be available? Are you going to sell Rambo paintings or?
That's my plan. I've been talking to Lionsgate because they're a client and they own this one. But they've had so many changes, like so many of the studios out there. You can't really nail anybody down. Every time you start talking to somebody, they're gone in a week. So I'm trying to find a way. It's not out till September. My intention is to release Rambo paintings because I've done a few and I've released a couple on Instagram and, they blew up.
Rocky is the certainly the one that we love the most and kind of like we want to be like. Nobody wants to be like Rambo necessarily, have that life per se. But the Rambo character and his journey and his adventures, so to speak, but that really calls for a lot of great artwork. I think that you can get a lot of good art out of that violence and out of that danger and out of that intensity. I think the Rambo character alone would be a great artwork as well, yeah. I
think so too, and some of the outtakes I saw on this film, it's so beautifully colored from what I saw as well, so it already has a rich texture.
You see some of the outtakes?
Some of it, yeah, and I think that it's already got a beautiful look and feel to it, so I'd love to kind of get into that thing.
How did you see the outtakes?
Oh, just, here and there.
Oh, boy. Jeepers creepers. So you don't have to say. I mean, I was just going to say, we as fans, we have something to look forward to with Rambo 5, do you think?
Oh, I think so. Okay. I think so. It's a different kind of Rambo. It's not the long-haired running through the jungle. It's not. It's a different kind of mature Rambo, from what I can tell. So I'm really excited to see exactly where they went with it.
He's got the short hair and he's riding a horse and he goes to Mexico.
Yeah, it's more of a Western. It feels more like a Western.
Yeah, and he said, I think he said somewhere that he wants to do his own Unforgiven like Clint Eastwood. He wants to have an Unforgiven type movie.
Yeah, of course. That's what changed Clint's career right there. It made a turn and Clint became Clint right there in that moment. So that's very smart. Yeah, and that's why they, are all over it.
Sure.
Hey, can we mention something? I just want to talk about, I have a contest going on too on the website.
Yeah, continue.
So on our website, Icons in Art, we have a giveaway contest going on right now. It ends on the 15th, May 15th. So anybody who signs up, you're in it to win one of the large ones signed by me, one of the large prints of your choice.
So what do they have to do to enter?
Just go to the website. A pop-up form will come as soon as they get to the homepage and just enter your name and your email in there. And then we ask that you tag 3 friends on social media.
Oh, wow.
And then you're entered. Yeah. So
Wow.
that's all you have to do. We're going to do that till the 15th, and then we'll have a random drawing, and that person will get to choose the print of their choice that we'll send out to them.
Nice. Well, I'm going to enter that just in case. Hey, am I allowed to enter?
Of course.
Okay, good. I don't want to be selfish here, but
No, exactly. Why not have two? I'm only giving you one, you know?
yeah, why not? That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
John, is there anything else you would like to share before we close the show?
Just that this has been a real joy to chat with you. I'm glad we got to finally speak, and thank you for allowing me to kind of get my story out there
Oh, of course.
about this.
Great
It's so
story.
exciting to be, collaborating with Sly on this level of artwork, and I think that as we progress, because this collection is going to grow and grow, we're going to try to capture all the important moments in the films and immortalize them on canvas so that people can grab their favorite moments or collect multiple to tell a story of their own in wherever they hang them. Just encourage your listeners to go check us out at iconsandart.com. Take a look at what we have going on.
And you're on Instagram as well and Twitter, I believe.
Yeah, and Facebook,
There you go.
all icons and art. Yeah, so they can follow us and check us out. We post every day something.
That's awesome. Yeah, please do, listeners, and thank you, John, for coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate it.